Hello again, everybody. I'm Chris. I'm all set to count down this week's 40 most played country records in the USA, compiled by Mediabase 24/7 for the week ending August 16th, 2025. Before I get started counting down this week's biggest hits, let's take a look back at last week's top three. Number 3 was Good News by Shaboozey. Number 2 was After All the Bars Are Closed by Thomas Rhett. And the number 1 song last week was Park by Tyler Hubbard. Now, where will Tyler be parked on this week's countdown? We'll find out 39 hits from now. First, we get started with the latest by Chris Janson, falling back 3 spots to number 40, called Me and a Beer. Well, here's a re-entry, a tune that fell out of the countdown last week. This week, it's back in at number 39, the first chart hit by Max McNown, called Better Made for You. And with that one re-entry, one song falls off the chart this week, and that's Country House by Sam Hunt. On with the countdown for a second week at number 38, here's Chris Young with Till the Last One Dies. Up 2 spots to number 37, Miranda Lambert with Chris Stapleton and A Song to Sing. Holding at number 36 is newcomer Preston Cooper, his first chart hit called Weak. At number 35, moving up 5 this week, here's Riley Green and Ella Langley called Don't Mind If I Do. Up 1 to 34, here's Dylan Scott with What He'll Never Have. Up 1 to 33, here's Ernest with Would If I Could. In at number 32 for the third week, Justin Moore and Time's Ticking. At number 31, up 2 spots, Megan Patrick with Golden Child. In this 13th week in the countdown, this was the third week in a row at number 30, Party with Favorite Country Song. Up 2 spots to number 29, Blake Shelton with Stay Country or Die Trying. Up a notch to number 28, it's Megan Maroney and Kenny Chesney called You Had to Be There. Falling back 3 spots to number 27, Dierks Bentley and She Hates Me. In at number 26 for the third week, George Birds and It Won't Be Long. Up 3 spots to number 25 in their 18th week on the chart, Parmalee with Cowgirl. Up 3 to number 24, Zach Top with Good Times and Tan Lines. Holding at number 23 this week, Rascal Flatts and the Jonas Brothers with I Dare You. Falling back a notch to number 22, Hudson Westbrook with House Again. At number 21, dropping back a notch, here's Keith Urban with Straight Line. In his 17th week in the countdown, he slips a notch to number 20, Tucker Wetmore with 3, 2, 1. And here's one of 2 songs tied for this week's fastest climbing hit, up 6 notches to number 19 in just his second week on the chart. It's Luke Combs with Back in the Saddle. Falling back 2 spots to number 18, Lainey Wilson with Somewhere Over the Laredo. Holding steady at number 17, here's Parker McCollum with What Kind of Man. And here's the other song tied for this week's biggest mover, up 6 notches to number 16. Here's Morgan Wallen and I Got Better. Up 3 spots to number 15 in his 15th week on the chart, Chase Matthew with Darling. Holding steady at number 14, here's Eric Church with Hands of Time. Up 2 spots to number 13, the song that's been on the chart the longest at 36 weeks, Jackson Dean, called Heavens to Betsy. Up a notch to number 12, John Party, called Friday Night Heartbreaker. And at number 11, up a notch, here's Jelly Roll with Heart of Stone. Alright, here's the first of the 10 biggest hits, Jordan Davis, up a notch to number 10, called Bar None. In at number 9 again this week, here's Scotty McCreery with Hootie and the Blowfish and Bottle Rockets. Here's last week's number 1, down to number 8, Tyler Hubbard with Park. At number 7, up a notch, here's Russell Dickerson, called Happened to Me. Easing down a notch to number 6 with his former number 1, it's Morgan Wallen, called Just in Case. In at number 5, up 2 spots, Bailey Zimmerman with Luke Combs and Backup Plan. At number 4, up 2 spots, Luke Bryan with the country song Came On. In at number 3 for the second week, it's Shaboozey and Good News. The number 2 song again this week belongs to Thomas Rhett, and After All the Bars Are Closed. Well, the new number 1 song in country music this week took 30 weeks to get here, jumping 3 spots from number 4 to number 1, scoring his 4th number 1 hit. It's Nate Smith and Fix What You Didn't Break. And that is our countdown of the 40 most played country records of the week. Join me again next week. Once again, we'll count them down and we'll find out who's got the number 1 hit in the USA. Thank you for listening.